The UC Code of Conduct articulates the list of ethical labor standards for all UCLA licensees. These standards address issues like child labor, forced labor, health and safety, and discrimination in the workplace. While any company granted permission to use the university's name must agree to uphold the UC Code, full, consistent, and sustainable implementation of these standards remains a challenge. Full and sustainable implementation is more aptly described as a journey of continuous improvement versus a destination. The truth is, there's a long, difficult road ahead, but as stewards of the UCLA licensing program, we're committed to the journey. ASUCLA is committed to transparency in the supply chains and requires UCLA licensees to identify and expand their knowledge of factories and suppliers that play a role in producing products that will ultimately bear the UCLA name. And we're committed to identifying best-in-class licensees who are aligned with us and engage in proactive management of risks for labor rights abuses within supply chains. We're committed to vigorously pursue continuous improvement in the levels of licensee competence and proactive management of labor practices in supply chains to assure corrective action is undertaken if non-compliances are found, and to ensure workers are made whole to the extent of any harm. In 2010, ASUCLA adopted an approach to licensee selection that seeks to measure a licensee's understanding of ethical labor practices and management processes they have in place to proactively identify and to sustainably mitigate risk for unfair labor practices throughout their manufacturing process. They must disclose steps taken to assess and mitigate risk, to monitor and credibly verify compliance, and to implement sustainable corrective action when instances of non-compliance are identified. All UCLA licensees are required to meet the standards of the UC Code. As a result, today we have less than half as many licensees as in 2010, and UCLA is likely the leanest collegiate licensing program among peer institutions as measured by number of licensees. 20% of companies holding a UCLA license today demonstrate the kind of robust management systems and proactive approach to implementation of ethical labor practices that UCLA is seeking. Efforts to move all UCLA licensees towards greater levels of engagement and further refinement of UCLA's licensee base are ongoing. By seeking greater insight as to what licensees are doing to proactively address issues of ethical labor in their supply chains, we have identified those licensees who are on the journey with us, working towards full implementation of ethical labor practices throughout their supply chains. By rewarding these licensees with contract renewals and a greater share of UCLA business, we can accelerate the progress. By implementing this rigorous process and continuously challenging our licensees, ASUCLA is fostering credible and measurable progress to overcome this pervasive worldwide challenge.